This is a weird angle. I just realized this. I didn't even think about it. I was just like, here, I need to put something on because I look way too way too weird. Just, and it's kind of cold anyway, so it's like, it's justified. Okay. What's crazy is like I have pants on right now, and bro, these are jeans. Look, I was tired last night, and I just didn't have the time to take them off. But I didn't even have a belt on. I had it on just in case. But yeah, anyways, enough about that. It's kind of cold in here, I'm not gonna lie. But I want to talk about something. Something that's been on my mind. You know, we've all played Red Dead, right? I hope we've all played Red. Okay, fine. I don't know why I'm saying all because usually, I mean, westerns are not for everyone. Honestly, I'll give them that. Like westerns are not really for everyone just because like maybe the time period, maybe stuff around that time. I don't know, but the westerns are not for everyone. I could truly say that. And I'm pretty sure any other Red Dead creator can stand by that. But I didn't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the story of Red Dead. Kind of. I'm talking about one thing. I like how I've been literally repeating myself for the last couple minutes. Okay. I realized in Red Dead, Javier, Suela, as you guys know him, he was one of our homies, bro. He was actually one of the homies that would ride or die. He was almost like a second Charles, if you really think about it, in the beginning. Of course, towards the end, he betrayed us. It sucks. It really does. But it's the truth. But there's a moment in the story where I think it could have been very, very different. So, in chapter 4, the Saint Denis bank robbery. I hope y'all have gotten to the story. If you haven't gotten to any of the parts that I'm going to say in this little rant, I would click off right now. Okay, I would 100% click off because I might be talking about a few spoilers, but yeah. I mean, but if you have gotten to that point of the story, hey, that's great. That's great. That's great. But you know what? Here, we're gonna give the people that haven't gone to that point in the story just a little bit of time. Click off. Oh yeah, also hit that like button. Not playing. Fuck that. I'm not gonna say that. Fuck that. No, never mind. Don't do that. Don't do that. I mean, you can, but just don't. Don't do it because I said it. Do it because you want to. All right. All right, bet. All right. I'm sure everyone left now. All right. All right. And if you didn't leave, then you're like me, bro. Like you don't care if you get spoiled. Anyway, enough about that. But in chapter 4, during the bank robbery, and when Lenny gets clapped, murked, and Arthur stops and like checks on Lenny. We see how all the gang members react to his death in that immediate moment. Charles, he stops for a moment. He stops for a moment to check on Lenny, and then he realizes that if he doesn't keep going, he's gonna die. So he leaves and runs. And then Bill, Dutch, and Micah, they just run off. They barely even glance. They barely even glance back to see if Lenny's okay. They just run. But then there's one gang member that at least glances back and, sees that Lenny is in a bad way. Javier. He glances back. He literally looks back. He stops for a moment, and then he continues on. He runs to safety. I firmly believe that Originally, Javier was supposed to be a good guy. I just have a feeling he was supposed to be a good guy. I'm not saying he was cut content. Like I'm saying, like he was supposed to be like another Charles. I feel like they had more plans for Javier in the story, but I'm not sure. I could be wrong, but he's only one of few gang members that I believe would have been on Arthur's side when they were on the standoff in chapter 6. Of course, chapter 6, um, in the final mission, Red Dead Redemption, right? Yeah. After Arthur saves Abigail and, of course, Sadie from uh, from Van Horn, I think. Van Horn, yeah, right, Van Horn. And he takes his final ride. They're all in that little standoff. That like everybody is in that little standoff, and everyone's ready to go. All right. And Javier, in that moment, he warns the gang because he still cares about, I'm sure he still cares about everyone in the gang, including Arthur. And even though he's shown signs of, being on Dutch's side and Micah's side, you know, him him showing off like him showing off how should I say it? Sorry, I just ate and like I'm trying to burp, but anyways, about that. But throughout chapter 6, we see the signs that Javier is a different person. Javier is starting to become a different person. But even towards the end, he still believed that the gang could be saved. I just have a feeling he was thinking that. And I think it was more of due to him not wanting to accept the truth. That the gang was done. That was it. So I think his warning was like a final ditch effort to see if he can try to save the gang. Maybe they could work together to fight off the Pinkertons. Didn't work. Well, I kind of don't think that that's why he warned everyone. He just probably was just warning them, you know. I just have a small feeling that he just, he cared about everyone there, including Arthur and John. And so he warned everyone. I mean, to be fair, John wasn't even in the scene yet until of course Susan, fortunately, got murked by Micah. But yeah, and then of course when both Arthur and John are on the same side, they're on the same side. We we also see that Javier, points his gun up in the air. He doesn't aim at them. He doesn't aim at them. And I know people are gonna say, well, if you look back at the scene, you can see him actually aiming at them, and then he raises his gun up in the air. I just have a feeling that was just like uh a muscle memory kind of move. You know, imagine having a loaded gun pointed at you all your life, just running, just violence every day. And you always have a gun on you. Your immediate reaction is just to grab your gun immediately and also fight back and aim at the person. But after seeing that Arthur didn't shoot back, and realizing that all the times he had with the gang and Arthur and John, he points his gun up in the air, kind of showing that even in that moment he still cared about them. They were his brothers. They saved him, or well, Arthur saved him, but So honestly, I just want to say this. I feel like, or I want to think that Javier was meant to be one of the good guys, but his, should I say desire? No. His mindset of being loyal kind of drove him to be on Dutch's side. It wasn't just loyalty, it was also the idea of he can't accept that the gang is done. Because, after that, like after Dutch leaves Arthur to die, and whatever ending you get, which is either you help John or you go back for the money, high honor, low honor ending, whatever it is. Once Dutch leaves Arthur and Micah behind, like he disbands the gang, like it's no more. I think in that moment Javier realized that he might have made a mistake staying with Dutch because it didn't matter in the end. He not only lost good friends, he lost good family, he lost the gang. So his actions in a Red Dead 1, I'm not saying they're justified or, you know, I'm not saying like, oh, he has every right to do that, even though it's whatever. I'm not saying his actions in Red Dead 1 are justified, but I think his actions in Red Dead 1 kind of reflect what he wanted to do. I think he wanted to build the same kind of connection that he built from the Vanderlyn gang. And unfortunately, he couldn't do that. Maybe eventually greed just got to his head in Red Dead 1, and he became what we see in Red Dead 1. But it's mainly all I want to talk about. Just how, just what Javier could have been. What could have been. We could have had Javier on our side fighting against Dutch, but I think just Javier's mind was already poisoned with loyalty and the idea of like not wanting to accept that it's done no more. And part of me thinks like his actions in Red Dead 1 also reflect that kind of mindset. Not really the mindset of thinking, man, no, it's not, it's not over. Like he knows it's over, but I think him being loyal to maybe himself or to his men, to whatever he runs. I think that idea of loyalty just got drilled into his head that just made him do some of the things he did in Red Dead 1. But I don't really know much about Red Dead 1, so that's why I'm just like very vague of what I'm trying to say when explaining his actions. I just know he was a bad guy. That's it. But yeah, that's all I really want to talk about. You know, what could have been with Javier Escuela. It really does suck the way things turned out at the end of that game, especially with Javier. Honestly, I honestly when I saw Javier on the other side when I first played the game, of course I had high honor, of course, no question about it. But I felt like Javier was one of my favorite characters because he was like a second Charles. I felt like I could have connected with him, but unfortunately, when I saw him on the other side with Dutch, I was like, no way, bro, you can't be doing this to me. I kind of felt like maybe he's gonna help us later on, Nope, didn't happen. I knew about Red Dead 1 by that point when I first played the game, but when I first started playing Red Dead Redemption 2, I knew about Red Dead 1, but I didn't know much about it. Like, I just knew it existed, and John was the main character, and Jack was the protagonist. But that was all I knew. Or, well, both of them were protagonists. I knew both of them were protagonists, but, like, I knew certain things, alright? But yeah, eventually, found out after, after beating the game, like, what Javier became after, became a bad guy. John had to hunt him down. And I realized that all the times he said that John would look for him, he was kind of right. Not, but he wasn't right in a way of him getting found by John in like a dire need, like, him dying or something like that. No, he found him, you know, because he needed something from him. And that was to get his family back. But yeah, it's just a little rant. I just sorry the outro is so long. I don't know how to make good videos, guys. I suck. But I'm trying. I really am trying. I think I realized that I'm just gonna post whenever I want. Just because I realized that I'm not gonna be able to like follow a schedule. I'm very unpredictable. I'm very inconsistent. I'm not a good communicator, so I think it's best like I just don't I don't follow a schedule. That's how it is. But hope you guys enjoyed. Honestly, I had an interesting time recording this. I mean, just like this is gonna be like I'm recording this in one take, so I'm gonna end it before something happens because usually I have technical difficulties, aka I get interrupted. And like I said, I usually record these videos in one go. No going back and editing, bro. I just hate editing. I know eventually I'm gonna have to start editing, but for now, I'm gonna enjoy the time I have without editing. Yeah. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Um, you do you. Remember, respect is earned, not given. And yeah.